Hello and welcome to Optimal Game State. Today we are going to be having a look at Soulbound, which is the RPG for Age of Sigmar. Um, I think the system is really nice. Uh, the setting is Age of Sigmar, which I think has fantastic potential. Obviously, some people still have misgivings about it from the death of the old world, but I think it really developed out really well. And I think the guys at Cubicle 7 are in part um, a big contributor in that, because for me at least, getting down to the kind of nitty gritty and understanding how much a beer costs and what food is being eaten and stuff like that, I think kind of really kind of grounds the stories for me and really helps with bringing the setting alive. Okay, now what we're looking at here is we're going to be looking at the Age of Sigmar Soulbound Champions of Chaos. There have been three other Champions Chaos. So this is the main book. This is the Soulbound core book. And the main thing that you play in this is you play the good guys. So you play from the Order faction. So let me see some of the options you can play. Yeah, Kurnoth Hunter, a Night Quester, an Endrin Master, an Akelian Emissary, a Battlesmith, stuff like that. Fun stuff. Good guys, Order, for the most part. There is a Champions of Order book, which kind of expands out the options. And then there are two other books, which are super interesting and really enjoy. There is Champions of Death, which lets you play, ghouls, night haunts, vampires, stuff like that. And which have their own place in this particular setting. They're not just throwaway bad guys. They, have their motivations in their own battles and their own reasons for doing things. Similarly, you can play in Champion Destruction. You can play goblins, grots, ogres, trolls. Yeah, I think ogres are in there. And it's probably more of a comedic style of game in that particular one, I would imagine. So they were expansions they kind of built out on Soulbound. The reason I'm mentioning that is this book, so this is Champions of Chaos, is a core rule book. So this one it was announced like 3 years ago and seems to have gotten caught up in development hell for a while. From what I understand, one of the developers, so I think it's Emmett Byrne, who had been the kind of lead developer on Soulbound, has left the company. So I think people have had to kind of pick up what he had and do what they can for there. Why did they go for a core rulebook? Maybe they felt that things were getting, as we're introducing new systems and new elements, that things were getting different, that it kind of justified it. Possibly, though, there is a marketing value in it, in that core rulebooks tend to sell a lot better than expansion books. So this book will have everything that you need to play. This is a particular interest for me in this channel because if you look here, we've got an Iron Golem. Down below this, that distinctive helm is most likely one of the Untamed Beasts. I think there's another one getting punted off to the right hand side. Now, these, as you can see here, these are antagonists. They're the enemies. These are the main characters are what you're seeing in the middle. You've got Skaven, that's some corn fighter of some sort. Like, yeah, you can see who the heroes in this are. And unfortunately, they're not the Warcry warbands that we used to enjoy from first edition. Okay. Before we go further on that, there is so that's why I want to look at this book. I want to see how much they have in about the Bloodwind Spoil and all of that first edition stuff. So we are going to get into that. First, notice this is only 2.5 or 2.1 out of 5. Yeah, very poor. If we go back here and we look, you can see some of the ratings. So like almost all of the rest of this has high ratings, and unfortunately, this one book has poor ratings by comparison. So this, if you want, you can buy the PDF off of Drive Through RPG. Cubicle 7 do a fantastic thing where if you buy or pre-order a book, which is what I've done, and they will give you the PDF, and then the book will turn up when it turns up. Often it's going to take about a year before they get around to it, which can be frustrating, but also can be quite good. Um, if I went into one of the other books, you would find a bunch of comments saying that there was a typo here, typo there. Basically, the PDFs get reviewed by hundreds of people. Well, at least 10, going through them in detail. And whenever they see errors, they're able to communicate back to Cubicle 7. And when they get around to printing the actual thing, then everyone benefits. There are a lot of problems. So, yeah, this first comment here, I think it's the most recent one, just that it hasn't been play tested and it's basically unplayable. Here's someone else saying they're a big fan. Criticizing the copy paste element. So obviously we're going to be taking good chunks from Soulbound, which is a little bit frustrating. But also that they've missed out on stuff. So some skills that are listed for some of the character classes aren't written up. Similar items, talents, and yeah, I noticed that for a lot of the mounts. They're just, you can't find any details on it. You'll say you have a mount, but nowhere does it explain what that mount is or what it does. Yeah, lots of spelling errors. Many of the things, poor, poor balance. So it does kind of look like when Emmett left, he might have been the person who had at least some level of system mastery. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to pick that up yet. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Well, no, it is a bad thing, but that's something that they can fix because this is the PDF that's come out, and there's an opportunity for the designers to go over it and make some changes. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different comments from players talking about, you know, things that are out of step and are problematic. One of them is mentioned in here. And actually, yeah, just to point out, he is talking about some of the good stuff. The exploration rules is fun. Yeah, we'll get onto that. The Warcry Warband's being missing from the bestiary is unfortunate. So there are good elements in it, but it does look like it's been a bit rushed. Now you can see if you go into this that Cubicle 7 do reply to all these, acknowledging that there's an issue and or they are working on it, which is great. Yeah, okay, here's a bigger one. So this is my copy of Soulbound. At the very back of it, and I guess this is why they missed it. So one of the convenient things is obviously you've got your character page at the back, but they have the condition page at the back. So conditions is something that you're going to be referencing and looking up a lot. So blinded, prone, charmed, restrained, deaf and stunned, frightened, unconscious, incapacitated, poisoned. So obviously if you're going to be doing any one of those or you get hit one of those, you want to have your rules kind of conveniently there. It's at the back of the book for convenience. They missed it. They did not put it into this new book. So the new book doesn't have any of the details on how your conditions done. So there are giant gaps. So the core rule that they have too many gaps or unplayable. There's a bunch of balance issues. Yeah, you can see another big write-up. Apparently some of the abilities are completely crazy. Many of them are way overpowered. And yeah, this one's particularly damning. I need to stress it isn't just one miracle is bad or one spell is too strong. It's most of them. And also a lot of the archetypes are unbalanced. So they were not all built with the 35 XP. Now, fighters with heavy armor with only 3 body, despite the fact that you need 4 body to have it. And a bunch of problems. So yeah. Archetypes that can take the channeling skill but can't actually get spells. Fun. There was something else in there, wasn't there? Anyway, okay. So the book has potential. So unfortunately, it is very, very raw, and it does have problems. Is it worth you getting at the moment? It kind of depends what you're looking for, I guess. Let us have a quick flick through it. So as I said, my focus here is going to be on giving a kind of a brief overview just to see what there is in the book. Obviously, if you've got the core rulebook, you have an idea on what the rules are like. I don't think there's much of a change in it. In theory, some of the skills and equipment will have changed, but they're not going to be that much. There is a new system around favor. So if you build up favor with one of your gods, then you can turn in for rewards. So that is kind of interesting. You can see that they've got a bunch of archetypes. I don't like the way they formatted this. This is a minor issue for me. So Blades of Corn isn't a archetype. It's the heading for these archetypes. So yeah, you've got Deathbringer, Skull Grinder, Slaughter Priest, don't skip that. Magister, Ogrite, Thaumaturge, Sangor, skip that, and so on. So a lot of these are kind of the heroes that you would get, the kind of character units that you would pull in for your Warcry Warband, which is very, very cool. They obviously have Skaven at the end, so I don't know, for me, I think Skaven is going to be one of the big draws. They don't have, you cannot play any of the original warbands, which is unfortunate. If you wanted to do that, you could probably go for a Chaos Sorcerer, maybe a Dark Oath Chieftain. You know, there might be some things in here that you can kind of skin around one of the original warbands if that's what you want to do. And if I skip on down, so these are some of the stuff that are you will find in the Bloodwind Spoils, but unfortunately they don't actually have the warbands that we would be kind of familiar with, which is unfortunate. So, but I mean, you know, they're just humans. You could probably put them together without too much of an issue. Okay, we've got rules. That's all repeat. Endeavors. There are a few changes in how the endeavors work. That's your dark gifts. This is interesting. It is a recount of the history and, you know, explaining the mortal realms, but from the chaos perspective, which is kind of fun. And then yeah, you've got a bunch of stuff on GMing, the slight difference. This is what I'm interested in. So this is the Bloodwind Spoils. There's not a great amount of detail in here, and I think I'm heading towards my 10 minutes. I'm going to try to keep this brief. Okay, the bit that I'm interested in is this here. So there is a write-up on the human tribes. So you've got your Corvus Cabal. Doesn't say anything about stat block. The following groups make up the most prominent tribes. Stat blocks further hardy and twisted warriors can be found on 292. Okay, let's go to 292. I did not think they were there. 292. Okay. All right, so it just has... Yeah, okay. So we don't really have the flavor for them. They're just generic stat blocks. And then I guess if you wanted to kind of, like you're doing your Corvus Cabal, then leaping down might be something that you know, introduce something like a special ability or something kind of fun. So anyway, they are written up. We've got Cypher Lords, Signs of the Flame. It's only a quick paragraph. It's not really much that we didn't already, which honestly I think is a shame because there's a lot of potential in that. So that does exist. And just to mention that the Bloodwind Spoil, there is a map. The Bloodwind Spoil is a very specific part in the 8 points. So the 8 points sits between all the realms. It's a very cool spot actually, if you were able to control like Chaos are. It basically has at the very center of it is the Varanspire. Here, the Varanspire. And from there go out 8 big roads. Now these are big massive things. These are super wide and like giant legions of chaos march out. At the end of each of these is a gate. So these two here, one goes to Gur and one goes to Kaimon. So metal and beasts, which kind of maybe gives you a flavor of what's going on. Everything in the Bloodwind Spoil is between this. So if there are 8 divisions, then there's going to be 8 of these sections. But we've only ever seen the Bloodwind Spoils written up, which we got with Warcry. We haven't really seen any of the other sections. Yeah. In Varanspire is where you get Archaon. So that's the central core of Chaos. Incidentally, it wasn't always Chaos. This, I think, used to be an Order plane there. It's a demi-plane in that it's not one of the major planes. It kind of exists underneath, but it is connected to all of them. So it is a super important one when you're fighting across it. Now, the reason I mention this is that we do get details of Blood and Spoil, but we don't get any details of all the others. And unfortunately, I don't know. We see this every so often. Like, so this is the Soulbound book, and they did a write up of the Great Parch. The Great Parch is only a very small section of the Realm of Fire, and this kind of treats it. And GW seemed to do this as well, because this is where we had the big Vermin Doom invasion happened over here. I didn't need to. There was like it's almost an infinite selection of stuff going on. You can have your adventures going on anywhere. So I am delighted that they went back and they had a look at this, and as you can see, they have like write-ups. So you can see, yeah, Splintered Fang were mentioned up there again. They have write-ups and they have details on a couple of the places in this section. There is a larger map. Yeah, let me see if I can find that. I'm just gonna how to get that. Okay, so if I go back to, well, I'm gonna leave you with a nice picture. Ooh, there's Karngrad. So yeah, Karngrad existing is kind of fun. So if I go to the Cubicle 7 website, there we go. Age of Sigmar Champions of Chaos. So they have it in its own line, which is interesting. They have really pretty special edition. But yeah, this is, oh, and they've got cards. So dark gifts, spells. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe if they've got those printed already, then they might be in a bit of trouble. If a lot of those are going to have to change. This is the map that is a Bloodwind Spoil. So you can see this is all the various parts connected through, and across the top, it's got all of the, or some of the original war bands from Warcry, which is very, very cool. And this is obviously, this is all of it pulled together within those two sections. So actually, maybe this side is going to be, maybe on the right hand side, it's going to be Gur. Can I zoom in? There we go. Yeah, very, very cool. But if I move back, all right, back to the book. So they do have the different sections. Unfortunately, they don't have a full map here, which is a little annoying. So you can kind of work out where things are connected, but it isn't necessarily immediately obvious. So you can see Sarth Core is below there. I assume the stitching here is purely cosmetic, and there aren't giant cuts between the various sections. And there might be. I haven't read them all in detail. They have a small write-up, and typically what you'll have is you'll have a thing. So there's your cosmic pylon. You'll have a bit of a thing about it. So this is talking about the old gods, so the old ones. So that would have been the Slan and Lizardman. Seraphim legends say that when the ritual using Meteor Azir type one, this awe-inspiring golden age emerges. So obviously they had started something, but it never went anywhere. And then they'll have a little hook to go along with it. So Archaea doesn't like it, and someone has been asked to destroy it. So you can raise war on your own, facing a lingering Seraphon, and claim glory before the lake becomes another stretch of Nurgle's domain. So everything has a little bit of a write-up, an element with it. Soroth Core had a big campaign. Oh, you can't see all the inside, but had a big campaign that you could play like 4 players. It was kind of fun. And now we know where it is, very near Karngrad. So yeah, I mean it's cool. There's a good chunk, and then it gets into the new sections for serving the North Gods. So from the perspective of a Warcry fan, I'm really happy to get a little bit of write-up on it. It makes it a place where you could set some of these adventures. Maybe it's just going to be something where you plunge someone into the fight briefly, and they have to get something out and kind of survive long enough if they're the good guys. But yeah, you could also do like an ongoing campaign with a bunch of chaos fighters who are doing what they need to do to get through stuff. Yeah. All right. Let me go back to the very top. So in summary, weird that it is a full rulebook. Yeah, that's a bit strange. It has a lot of work to be done. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't fully flesh out the various warbands, just because I'm a Warcry fan. And um, I always find it interesting that they're only covering this 1/8 of an entire plane. So there's all this extra untapped scope where, to be fair, you can develop out your own elements and try use similar themes. So if you imagine this one between Gur and Camon, so the Iron Golems versus the Untamed Beasts is pretty perfect. But you can maybe team your section of this if you want to do something from whole cloth and do it completely fresh and still set it within the 8 points. The fact that we didn't get more information on that is a little disappointing. This is one to keep an eye on. The fact that they're looking to do it as a core book could mean they're going to bring out more and we're going to see more developed for it. It could be very, very cool, but they do have a lot of work to do and they've got a lot of catching up to do, and they really need to lock down that system mastery issue. So yeah, when you produce rules that just don't work, that are just silly, especially ones where the commenters were saying, I literally tried to put a character together, very little effort, and I found problems. Or where a skill was listed in a character archetype but isn't there in the book, then that's an obvious problem that really should have been spotted with kind of minor play testing. And unfortunately in this case, I think because Emmett's gone, Cubicle 7 are a little bit behind and are probably pushing more of the work onto the players to essentially playtest everything for them. Now, historically, they do take the feedback and they do update the PDFs, and when it eventually goes to print, it is good. It is good quality, and it is something that is enjoyable to play with. Hopefully, we'll see them do it with this, because yeah, it's got some great potential and just hasn't quite got there yet. All right, thank you very much for listening, and have a great week.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.